Hello spooky friends. Today I will be sharing with you 15 spooky books for the upcoming spooky season. Are you ready to get your scare on? Spooky friends, my name is Lexi and welcome back to my channel. Today we will be doing a TBR, and the TBR is for really the month of October. It's extremely ambitious. Some of these will be spilling over to November as well, but mostly these are all the spooky, scary, and terrifying books that I want to read this October. Not all of these, I'm gonna just do as like a disclaimer, are spooky. Some of these are like cozy fantasies. If that is your vibe, stick around. But before we go ahead and get started, I would like to take a couple of seconds to tell you about today's sponsor, which is Book of the Month. Thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. Book of the Month is a fast-growing online book subscription service, and it is a delight if you are a reader. Every single month, their highly selective team actually vets hundreds of different books to find a carefully selected and curated list of books for you to choose from at home. It's incredibly easy. You just go to bookofthemonth.com and you choose which book or books you would like to be sent to you, and voila, the books are then delivered right to your door. And I love their selection as well because in addition to having new releases from emerging and new authors as well as beloved favorites, they also have a very wide variety as far as like genres are concerned. So if you are a thriller lover or a lover of horror, or you're a lover of romance or contemporary, they kind of have a little bit of everything. It's also completely risk-free because if there is a month where you're not necessarily vibing with any of the titles, you can choose one of two options. You can either skip the month or you can choose from their lengthy backlist title selection as well. And now I would like to show you the two books that I have selected that I will be reading this next month. The first one I chose is actually a thriller, and it is called The Family Game, and this is by Catherine Steadman. And it just looks like a spooky good time, you know? A rich, eccentric family, a time-honored tradition, a lethal game of survival? One woman is about to find out if she has what it takes to join her husband's family in this riveting must-read thriller from the author of Something in the Water, Mr. Nobody, and The Disappearing Act. Genuinely, this feels like the absolute perfect blend between Knives Out and also Get Ready? Is that right? It's like a horror film, and I could not be more thrilled to dive into this. And then my second choice for the month of October is going to be Thistlefoot, and this is by Jenna Rose Nethercott. This is an adult fairy tale retelling, and it's also a fantasy. The Yaga siblings have been estranged since childhood, separated both by resentment and by wide miles of American highway. But when called to receive a mysterious inheritance, the siblings are reunited, only to discover that their bequest isn't land or money, but something far stranger, a sentient house on chicken legs. I also love Book of the Month because the deal is absolutely outstanding. They bring you a brand new adult hardcover fiction book for a fraction of the price. I could not recommend them more if you are a person who loves to read and you are a super ravenous reader like myself, because it's going to save you so much money in the long run, in my opinion. And if you have never used Book of the Month, you can actually use my code, which is Alexandra, to get your very first Book of the Month box for only $9.99. That means you can actually get one of these brand new hardcover fiction for only $9.99. It still blows my mind. I've been working with them for so many months and I still feel like the price is just so good. This is regularly $28.99. How do they do it? Again, I really could not recommend them enough. So if you have never used Book of the Month, please go check them out. Be sure to use my code. All of the links will be down in the description. And I think that's it. So back to the spooky TBR. Okay, so I've gone ahead and put this list into different categories. We've got witchy books, ghost stories, classic Gothic tales, scary books, and one more. What was the other category? Oh, atmospheric reads for fall. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the witchy category. So the first stack of books I have here are going to be witchy books. I love a practical magic moment, okay? There are way too many witchy books that I really want to read, but I've limited myself to this stack as books I definitely want to get to. Also, I know I said 15, technically, I added a bonus read in this category, so 15, 16, okay. The very first book that I would like to read is The Glass Witch by Lindsey Puckett, and this is a middle grade that I think is releasing October 18th. So this is a cozy middle grade, and we are following Addie Good, who has never felt quite good enough. Addie is the weakest witch in her family in generations, and she has just been dropped off, I think in Cranberry Hollow, and she actually has to participate in Cranberry Hollow's annual Halloween pageant. However, while she is dealing with this, she accidentally evokes a curse, and the curse starts to turn her bones into glass. And so she has to try to figure out a way to reverse this curse while also participating in this Halloween pageant. It sounds so cute, it sounds so quirky and so charming. I have very, very high expectations for this book. I can't wait to read it. And also, it just looks so freaking cute. I'm trying to get it so that you don't see the glare. Look at that. Amazing. The next book is a book that I'm seeing everywhere, and it is one of my top most anticipated releases ever, and that is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandanna. This is following Micah Moon, and Micah Moon is a witch, and she has to pretend that she's not a witch, but she kind of cheats this in one regard, and that is she has a fake internet account where she does fake magic. So she pretends to be a witch, but she's also pretending that all of this magic is fake. One day, however, she is contacted by someone who recognizes that she is really a witch and says, I have 3 charges that desperately need your help. Can you please teach them magic? And she actually decides, yes, I will. And she goes to try to help these 3 kids learn how to produce magic. While she is there, I think sparks fly between her and a grumpy librarian. Like, what more could you want, you know? Next up is a little bit of a romance in there. I love a good holiday romance, and this one just seemed to fit the bill perfectly. It is called Not the Witch You Wed, and this is by April Asher. This particular book is following a witch and a werewolf love story. Like, say less, you know? The book is following 2 people who actually really hate each other. Our main character, Violet, cannot stand Lincoln because he broke her heart when they were teenagers. However, in this magical society, they have to basically find the person they're going to mate with for life. They have to find them quickly. And so to buy themselves more time, they decide to fake date and say that the other one is like their mate for life. And while they are fake dating, the enemies start to develop feelings for each other. The vibes in this already seem so perfect for fall. Like, I love that we are going to be exploring a werewolf and a witch's love story. I think that the fake aspect of dating, along with her like hating him, sounds so fun to me. So I think this is going to be perfect to read around the spooky season. I cannot wait. And then the next one, which is kind of like my bonus book in this category, is Hocus Pocus, and this is illustrated by Grimley. This is just following Hocus Pocus, the Disney movie. We're following Max, and Max and Danny move to Salem, Massachusetts, and they meet Allison, and the 3 of them go out on Halloween night, and they accidentally wake up the Sanderson sisters, who are 3 sister witches who want to suck the lives out of the children of Salem. You're welcome for that impersonation. And yeah, so the book is kind of following their journey when they accidentally wake them up. And I really, really want to read this because, first of all, I've never read the movie in book form, but second of all, this is beautifully illustrated. Most pages have at least 1 illustration on them, but even like pages that don't have any illustrations on them are so beautiful because they look kind of like parchment paper. This is really giving me Harry Potter illustrated edition vibes. I think it's gonna be so much fun to read, and I would kind of like to pair this with watching the movie as well as the second Hocus Pocus movie, which comes out very soon. That is it for all of my witchy books. Let's go ahead and move on to the ghost stories. Okay. The first one is The Curse on Spectacle Key, and this is by Chantel Acevado. This is a middle grade, and we are following Frank, and Frank's family has always moved around a lot. But now they've decided to put down roots in this little town. I think it's like an island, and on the island is this lighthouse, and they decide to kind of fix up the lighthouse and stay there. However, what they don't know is that the island might be cursed. Amazing. And so while Frank is there, he actually makes friends with a little girl who I think might be a ghost, and together they have to try to break the curse on Spectacle Key. And you know what I'm gonna say? It's giving me Casper. Next up is a book that was recommended to me by Desi from Darling Desi, and that is The Girl in White by Lindsay Currie. And this is a ghost story, but more than anything, apparently this feels very atmospheric. And it literally opens with saying, today is October 1st. It barged in on a gust of chilly air with red and orange leaves on its heels. And this was so kindly also signed by the author. So Lindsay, thank you so much. It says, enjoy Alexandra, but beware of sweet Molly. That's so sweet. But anyways, okay, sorry. The book itself is following Mallory, and Mallory has just moved to a town, and the town is obsessed with being haunted. But while Mallory is there, she starts to have all of these very strange nightmares, and in her nightmares, she starts to dream of an old woman, I believe named Molly. One day, however, she is startled to find that the woman from her nightmares has come to life, and she meets her in this town. That's all I really know. I'm intentionally really going into this not knowing as much because I think it's going to be so wonderful. And with like my spookier reads, if the premise sounds interesting, I try hard to go into it not knowing a lot. So I'm really excited to read this. I think it'll be perfect and very cozy for October. So yeah, there's The Girl in White. And then the last one here is YA, and it is called I Am the Ghost in Your House by Romasco Moore. I showed this in my haul, but like for me, the cover is everything. This book is following Pi, and Pi and her mom travel all over America, and they have haunted so many different places, hotels and houses, and I think like even schools. And Pi's mom randomly says, okay, Pi, we've traveled everywhere I wanna go, where do you wanna go? And Pi chooses Pittsburgh because she secretly wants to see if she can find the girl that she, I think, fell in love with, and she wants to try to reveal herself to this girl. And then the flap says, but how can anyone love an invisible girl? To me, it sounds so sweet, and it also sounds like it's going to be a ghost story that kind of breaks my heart. Again, we're kind of getting like some low-key Casper vibes, friends to potentially like lovers. I don't know how that works in like the ghost world, but it sounds perfect for spooky season. Now let's go ahead and move on to the atmospheric, cozy books perfect for fall. So this category is odd, but it's kind of like books that feel like they're going to be warm and cozy. The first one is called Ravenfall, and this is by Kaylin Joseph. This was, I'm gonna be honest, a little bit of a cover buy. The cover screams autumn. Look at this. This is amazing. This is a work of art. So this book is following Annabella, and Annabella has never been normal, not even next to her supernatural family standards. They, I think, run a little cozy inn, and the inn is in between the world of like the living and the world of the dead. And one day there is a boy named Colin who comes at the inn, and he is looking for his missing brother along with the supernatural creature that killed his parents. Annabella decides to actually help Colin, and they team up trying to figure out, I guess, like what happened to his brother and also who killed Colin's parents. It sounds very creepy, but also so perfect for spooky season. Next up, we had to include a book about monsters. You knew I was going to include a book about monsters. I love monsters. The first one is going to be The Monsters of Brookhaven, and this is by Patrick Kenny. This is a book that I actually found, I think, from Gavin's channel, from How to Train Your Gavin, and it sounds so cozy and perfect for October. This book is following Mirabelle, and Mirabelle is part of a rather unusual family. She has a family of monsters, and they live in this magical little Gothic mansion here called Brookhaven. And Brookhaven is actually spelled so that other people can't actually see it and go into Brookhaven, and this is for everyone's safety. This is so that the family isn't necessarily hunted by people who don't understand them, but I think it's also for the people's safety so that the monsters don't hurt the people, if I'm getting that correctly. One day, however, there are two orphans, Jem and Tom, who wander into Brookhaven, and they actually find a way in, and they meet Mirabelle. And that's where the story starts. Yeah. And then the last one in this particular category is going to be Nettle and Bone, and this is by T. King Fisher. So this particular book is an adult fantasy, and I love it because it feels a little bit like a fairy tale. And there's something about fantasy and fairy tales that really feels warm and cozy to me that I think is also kind of perfect to read in the spooky season. We are following Mara, and Mara, I think, is off to try to rescue her sister who is in an abusive relationship with a prince. And to grant her help, I think she has to do 3 impossible tasks. She has to make a dog out of bones, assemble a coat out of nettles, and capture moonlight in a jar. She also goes with the help of like an ex-knight, a reluctant fairy godmother, and also a grave witch. And together they go on a quest to try to save her sister. Next up are going to be Gothic Tales. Did I mention that at the beginning? Regardless, here we go. We're gonna be talking about some Gothic tales. I feel like Gothic reads are some of the best reads to read around this time of year. I love like the creepy atmosphere that goes along with Gothic tales, especially when they involve like a creepy old mansion. Chef's kiss, you know? The first one is the only one that is a newer release. This is a YA Gothic tale called Belladonna, and this is by Adeline Grace. And I have really, really high hopes for this book because so many people who have been reading this have been saying that it is so well written. We're following Signa, and Signa has a very, very large fortune attached to her. And she has been, I guess, passed around from guardian to guardian, and every guardian that has ever watched over her has been much more interested in her enormous fortune than actually her, and they have all met very untimely deaths. Her newest family is called the Hawthorns, and I think like the main father of this family is really sad because his wife has passed away. One day when the wife, I guess, is summoned, I want to say through like a seance, she says actually that she was murdered, and so now Signa is trying to figure out who murdered the mom. It sounds so cool. Like, I love that it's going to be a little bit of like a ghost story. I love that there's kind of a potential murder mystery going on. It's kind of giving me like a series of unfortunate events, but like older. It sounds really cool. Okay, and then the next 2 are both classics. So I really, really want to read a vampire story. And to be honest, I want to read quite a few vampire stories, but the one that I chose that I definitely want to get to is going to be Carmilla. And this is by Sheridan LaFondue. I think I'm saying that right. It's a really, really short story, and it says, predating Bram Stoker's Dracula, Carmilla is the ultimate Gothic vampire tale, stylish, menacing, sensual, and spellbinding. And then it says, you are mine, you shall be mine, you and I are one forever. I'm gonna be honest with you, the only thing I know about this is that it is potentially sapphic and about vampires, and it's like a classic in the Gothic genre, and that's really all I need to know. And then the last one. You guys, I've put this on my TBR for 2 years. It is my #1 priority. I've been intimidated in the past, but no longer. This is the year I will read Frankenstein. Told me to it, okay? Frankenstein is following Dr. Frankenstein, who is convinced he wants to try to create life out of nothing. And when he does that, he creates the creature. And the creature then becomes something that he wasn't expecting, and Dr. Frankenstein treats him like a monster. So we're kind of following their relationship, and I think we're also following how the creature is perceiving Dr. Frankenstein as well as the world. I'm very, very excited to learn more about this. I've heard this is really, really sad, but I think it's gonna be really, really good. I'm intimidated, but I'm gonna do it this year. This is the year, okay. And then the very final category, these are going to be my more scary books. So the first book in this category is going to be Kate Alice Marshall's These Fleeting Shadows. And it says here, I promise to tell the truth, but first I have to lie. I love Kate Alice Marshall so much. Rules for Vanishing was everything to me when I read this several years ago, so I could not be more excited to read this book. We're following Helen, and Helen and her mother want nothing to do apparently with Helen's mother's family, and Helen actually dreams of her mother's estate, like where she grew up, and it's called Harrow. One day they are invited to like hear the will reading. Apparently Helen has inherited Harrow as well as the family's fortune. However, to receive everything, they have to stay at this mansion for 1 full year. I have heard that this is Knives Out meets Haunting of Hill House. I've heard that this is spooky and scary. And you know what? I am just so excited. I think this is my #1 most anticipated book for October, which is saying a lot because there are quite a few other books that I really, really want to read. The Society for Irregular Witches is also really, really up there, but I just love Kate Alice Marshall so much. I have such high expectations for this. I cannot wait to read it. Who doesn't love a good creepy story around October, you know? The next one I have here, I think it's considered horror. I don't know. It's called Sleuth Bluefoot, A Tale of Bewitchery, and this is by Brom. And I like this because I think it is incorporating horror with like witchcraft and witches. And to me, that combination sounds really, really cool. This is following Abitha, who lives, I think in the 1600s in New England, kind of around the time of like the Salem witch trials. She, I think, is widowed and she's being outcasted by a lot of the people in her village. And she learns about this creature who lives in the forest. And the people in her village actually call him like the devil. However, he is the only one who is being kind to her. And I think he starts to teach her magic, if I'm getting that correct. It says, together they ignite a battle between pagan and Puritan, one that threatens to destroy the entire village, leaving nothing but ashes and bloodshed in its wake. And then the last one, I think it's considered adult horror, or it's like a gothic horror, and it's called House of Hunger. This has not come out yet. This comes out in October, and I'm gonna go ahead and read the synopsis because I don't wanna get it wrong. So this is following Marion Shaw, and she has been raised in the slums where want and deprivation are all she knew. Despite longing to leave the city and its miseries, she has no real hope of escape until the day she spots a spectacular listing in the news seeking a blood maid. Though she knows little about the far north, where wealthy nobles live in luxury and drink the blood of those in their service, Marion applies to the position. In a matter of days, she finds herself the newest blood maid at the notorious House of Hunger. There, Marion is swept into a world of dark debauchery. Obviously, this is giving me like major vampire vibes energy, which we love, but it also just sounds really scary. So I'm really, really excited. That is the last book I think on this list that I really, really want to read. Honestly, there's a lot that I want to read. I could probably name about 100 books that I would like to read. Alas, I am not that fast of a reader. And I think, you guys, that is it. Those are all of the books that I would really, really like to read in the upcoming spooky months of autumn. Again, there's quite a few that I really, really want to read, but I've tried to narrow down the list to these 15, and I'm hoping to read quite a few of them. If you have made it to this part of the video, please leave me any spooky emoji of your choice, okay? Just let's make it like a spooky party down in the comments. And I would also love to know if you are planning to read any of these books or what you are planning to read this October. And that's it. So until next time, book lovers, keep your head in the clouds and your heart in a book, and I will talk to you very soon. Stay spooky.